Hello, welcome back to JK Armament's Tribal Knowledge Podcast. Now we have Seth with us today. How you doing, Seth?
Good, man. My name is Seth Howard. I'm with Snake River Outdoorsman. We run 2-day PRS matches and NRL hunter matches, as well as an assortment of local matches in Southwest Idaho.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, like running them, like what do you do to set one up? Give me some of the ins and outs.
Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward. We've got 10 different ranges that we run on. We tear down, we put up every time. None of these, we have one fixed square range, but access is trash, so we don't use it as heavily.
Gotcha.
We go.
So it's full setup and tear down every time?
Every match. Yeah, we don't. You get to use your legs. Make sure that those hold
Those are strong, right? Yeah.
Don't want
like this national match, how many targets did you have?
We had 72 targets at this match.
Wow.
On a sandy, gross hill. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to call it like the side of a canyon wall.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it was on the side. And a little bit of rappelling, not a lot. Only 3 targets, kind of had to be up pretty heavy that way, but we set them.
Any drone placement again?
Not on this one. No.
Not on this one.
No, so the drone, we were a bit concerned with the vertical face of that canyon wall getting in the way.
Gotcha.
The mapping technology on those works pretty well, but they're not cheap. Just figured it'd be easier just
manually
get on
repel
your
it in.
Lamborghinis and go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, Seth just finished setting up for the Nationals for PRS, right?
Yeah, the 2024 PRS finale, and we ran it in Bliss, Idaho.
Yep, just down the road from here. I think we're about 20 miles away.
Yeah. So that was the first time that the PRS finale has ever been on the West Coast. It was a really cool thing, really cool experience for Brian and I to be able to do, to bring the rest of the PRS world, because it's been around for quite a while, but nobody's ever wanted to come, and rightfully so. It's November. It's possible that it gets nasty, but it worked out.
Was, right? I mean,
odd
considering, I guess, but
yeah, it was a weird thing. Day one was a wildly uncharacteristic 0 wind day, which we don't have. We've got like 3 of those a year in the spring and in the fall. The rest of the time, average here is 8 to 10.
Yeah.
A no wind day here is 5 to 7.
Gotcha.
Most of the time, you get the 30s. Sometimes you get the 20-hour day, but most of the time you got
something going on.
Something's cooking. We had 0, which was interesting. The hit percents went really high because these guys are the best in the world.
They're like, oh, this is great.
Oh yeah,
I'm going to shovel this in.
Yeah, I feel so good about myself.
Then day 2
didn't go the same. You saw you could watch dramatically as they came off of a stage. It was. For some reason, I've magically started hitting less targets. It must have been this or this. But
wasn't the rain or the wind?
Yeah. And so it was interesting. It was super interesting to watch what happened.
It's still pretty amazing to see that second day, those guys that were in the top of the pack still hammering.
Those guys, yeah.
It didn't affect them,
They're
right?
crazy humans, man. So you had probably 30 dudes there who are in that category. Who are in that, so it's wonky and terrible, and you can't really tell where the wind's at because your profiles are different, and then your terrain's different, and they're still just smashing tiny targets.
Over and over.
Yeah, the dispersion of those rifle systems with that person in them aren't much smaller than the target size. And then your gusts on it to give you wind brackets are going to run either side of that target sizing sometimes if you're not real careful about what you're doing. It doesn't take a lot of variation there, and you're off the plate. And they're still just hammering. Like what Ben Gossett did, the guy that won it, was impressive. It really was.
How many shots fired?
212 for score, and he missed 12 shots.
Out of the whole event.
Out of
2
the whole
days.
event, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's shooting, right?
He's did phenomenal for sure. He was,
AMU guy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Army Marksmanship Unit.
Yeah.
Really looked good for the Army. Good job, boys.
100%. Like you want to win that thing if you're the AMU, and he did it, and it's awesome.
Yeah, really good stuff.
Yeah, it really. Yeah, and the next one was Matt Allwine. He was back. Still 5 points, which is a big gap for PRS. Most of the time, you don't see that disparity.
Usually it's down to a shot or two.
Yeah, a shot or two, right? To have a 5-point lead at a match. He
really stepped out front.
He was, there's no contest. There's no, if this shot, 5 points is a lot. And Matt was still ahead of the next guys by 2 or 3. So the gap between those two and everybody was substantial. It was impressive what those guys were able to do with not good conditions.
Yeah.
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 In a canyon.
Just good training, good gear,
Watching, paying attention.
knowing their skill, their
Yeah.
trade, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. If you don't watch
Putting it
those
to
bullets,
work, yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be sad.
Pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
We've been talking suppressors, over the last couple years, really, me and you,
Yes.
and how they apply to this sport.
So in precision rifle, you see dominance with brakes. Recoil control, you get a better opportunity to not have to interface with the rifle as heavily. You still have to manage recoil. It's not that it's gone.
Yep.
It's just that it holds it better. But the trade-off there is concussion. And I think personally, like I haven't shot braked for, I want to say 4 or 5 years.
You shoot not braked. You just
Cans only.
you shoot cans only.
Cans only.
Gotcha. I didn't know that.
Everything I shoot is so I went to Mississippi a couple years ago and lost all the hearing I had left because for some reason I thought it'd be a great idea because I was trying to get better at training, trying to get better for cross systems, running pistols and carbine.
Gotcha.
I thought it'd be a great idea to run some carbine inside of a building with double ears with no can. That was a terrible.
Still wasn't enough.
Wasn't enough.
Yep.
No, it's there's long-term immediate. I knew it was gone. And I'm like, oh, this sucks. But recoil control is the trade-off. The recoil control of a can push versus a brake, which stops them, is the trade-off. And it's where you're starting to see more guys veer into the can, I think now, because they're starting to understand more and more that it is management. Yep. You can still see everything. You still track every shot. You
just have to shoot differently.
You have to set up for recoil control primarily when you go to set with a can because it's going to push on you. It's not the same. And we've been playing around with running brakes and different things on it.
Yep. You've been doing some custom ones. We've shot our comp.
Yep.
Different. Well, we're even developing some internally where we're going to give someone the most recoil reduction we can, which it's a proven fact. Side discharge, 45 to 30 degree brakes do the best.
Right.
I mean, that's what comes on a Barrett.
Right.
That's what comes on an artillery piece.
On a tank is the same.
Yeah. It's not like a secret.
No.
Right. That's what works best. But it does push that pressure back towards you, and it does need to be timed.
The balance. Right? The balance is key. That's really so. Like I've been running you guys' can now since the last couple of years, playing with it, checking lengths. That's a really cool part of it is where you can actually adjust the length, check your brake, check the balance of those two things. For what I'm doing with the rifle, I want as much recoil control as I can get, but still concussion control is better.
Because there's nothing like taking a nice clean shot with an M80 going off on the side of your head, right?
100%.
Let's just throw firecrackers at this guy while he's shooting and see what happens. Right?
What I noticed was
people will flinch.
What I noticed is that I have a flinch propensity with that concussion, and I didn't notice it until I started shooting cans all the time, and then I'd go back, and it's there. Everything locks. I could feel my shoulders tighten. I could feel it. So shooting a precision rifle, if you tense up that shoulder, you can get elevation shifts. So if you're not clean on your pocket on how it comes back to you, it'll start to change your impact. When you're talking about 3/10, 4/10 targets, a tenth of variation, your dispersion's out the window because your rifle system isn't so precise as that you're going to see that variation not eaten up in the plate. Mm-hmm. And so that thing, you have to be uber critical of paying attention to what that looks like. And if you get that concussion flinch, even if you say, sure, you're not having it, it can cause trouble. The guys at the very top are repetition. They're crushing it. Their recoil control is on point. You're seeing that thing cool, but I don't know. I question the long-term viability of that much concussion on your head and how, like after a match with a break, I'd have a headache. And not just a little one, it hurts. You shoot underneath a cover with some other people, you have that just headache.
Real pressure, yeah. And we dealt with that in the military, shooting indoors, like you said earlier. Yeah. There's a real pressure thing going on there.
Yeah.
And then clear to being in a duck blind. That's why we got into 12 gauge suppressors.
100%.
We put 6 guys in a duck blind and shoot a couple boxes apiece. every time I'd leave with this massive headache, you know, it's, well, maybe I didn't eat right, or I wasn't drinking water. No, I just
Concussion.
had a bunch of micro blasts by my head all day. So
my one eye doesn't work, but I'll bet that's something else. It's probably genetic.
Yeah, you know, so just making sure we're taking care of ourselves. You know, it wasn't that long ago they were using bows and arrows, so and swords and now it's like, no, we're getting higher and higher pressure caliber weapons and shorter barrels. Period. And they work great. But there's something else that comes with it.
There's a whole system.
Yeah.
Weapon system includes the operator. It's not just this is a piece of equipment. You're in that, right? I don't know. For me personally, I see a pretty dramatic effect, especially on like fatigue and that concussion. My goal is to not be a complete cripple by the time I'm 45, which isn't very far away, and I'm on my way to being a cripple now, right?
Yeah.
That trying to keep that thing and being able to see. So I don't have the flinch. I don't have that brake. So I don't know, we've been working on it, like say with the single ports and some other stuff. You know,
single port side discharge, angled back.
Right.
That's really on point. I mean, and I know I talked a little bit with Brian about it earlier, but that's where I started. I started making muzzle brakes first. Side discharge, 3-port, with top holes for muzzle rise.
Keeping control of the weapon. Yeah.
And I went clear up to inch 250.
Yeah.
Big fat barrels, straight brake, work rate. I even went clear up to a 5-port one.
Yeah.
For bear hunting for a 458 lot I made. And
it
worked great, you know.
Right.
Up on the hillside on a bear bait, blowing my hat off when I fired. You know, like, okay, something.
Maybe we
should look at something here. You know, yeah. So full circle, then getting them in the military and getting them actually issued, seeing them firsthand, like, whoa, this does something.
It matters.
And for me, like, I was an NCO in the Army and trained a bunch of guys how to shoot, and the immediate response for me wasn't even just that it was, you know, quieter or lower flash or lower recoil. These guys could shoot better all of a sudden because they weren't flinching. I had 40 guys on a line and their scores went up, you know, 30, 40%.
It was that dramatic.
Yeah. I was like, okay, this changes something. You have a young, I mean, bottom line is most guys join the military 17, 18, 19 years old, guys or gals. A lot of them didn't even shoot before then, and you give them an M4.
We got an explosion by your face right now.
It's pretty close. They got the butt stock all the way in, and you know, it's not that far from your face, and it's going off, and they flinch like crazy. One of my old tricks, and you could ask anyone that was in the Army with me, I'd basically like cover people in sandbags so they couldn't move. Like, you know, because they're flinching. So pretty soon they have like 30 sandbags on them. I'm like, okay, you ready? Boom.
You'll give it up eventually because you're being crushed. That's
because what you'll see, and you probably see it in PRS, people start blaming the equipment, right?
100%.
Oh, it's my trigger. Oh, it's the ammo. My scope's loose. And it's usually, not always, but a lot of times you can attribute it to yourself, right? What you're putting into it is what's happening.
Yeah, the primary I see it is in hunting guys. Guys hunting with magnums. They're sure they have to have a small car launching at a ridiculously high rate of speed with a 4-pound rifle. I mean, it's an exaggeration, but...
It's America. They want the best, right? That is ideal, right?
If the system works.
Comes with a trade-off. This thing kicks like a mule.
And the flinch is there.
And the flinch is real. And you got, I mean, I was in that category growing up. I had a 7 mag from my grandpa.
Yeah.
Super light. And I'd buy the heaviest bullets I could find because I just thought bigger was better.
They're going to die quicker, right?
Yeah, and it kicked my butt. And so what did I do? I shot at the least amount as possible.
Right, which is the...
So my go time on a deer was like, I may have shot it twice that year.
Right.
That's hopefully it just scared me and I didn't, and I got it right off the bat and I didn't have a second shot.
Yeah, because
that second shot was a flincher.
And the
first one you could just scare yourself and get it the job done. So
yeah. I had an .6, a Remington 700 .6 with wood stock that would blow your arm. Felt off, but it made it.
Yeah.
And dispersion, that hitting your target would be, hopefully we can get in that 6-8 inch grouping.
Pipe plate, you're good, right?
Which is fine if you're close, super close. And then we see these engagements starting to pull back.
Minute of elk. That's what if it's brown, it's down.
My grandfather zeroed no rifle ever. He liked to just send rounds until something hit.
That's a method. Artillery man.
Yeah.
Got it.
He spent some time in the Navy. He was on a ship. It
Oh,
happens.
Navy guns. Yeah. He's
that
on
was
it.
his game.
Yeah.
And then I started hunting more, and I'm like, well, maybe there's a better way if we just hit the target
First.
Yeah.
Right where we wanted it to hit. Yeah.
Do you mean they're killing him with arrows? If they could kill him with an arrow, why can't we just do that with a rifle? Yeah. So the energy thing is, I don't know, for me it's secondary. It's the placement first.
Yep.
If you can get placement primary, then you can train them. So like you're saying with the flinch, these guys are like, I got to have a 300 rum so I could shoot out to 600 yards, but I can't get a 1 foot group at 100. Like that's 6 foot. It's 600 yards with no environmental.
Right.
Like, how's that going to work?
Yep.
It's not.
Yeah.
Shoot them in the ass for days and be like,
Right.
oh, what did I do? Yeah. So that part to me really helped to drive it home of the flinch is there. The
It's a
concussions
real
are-
thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I
And
can't
anything
shake
we
it.
can do to mitigate that, that's where we're at. That's, again, kind of how I got into a lot of this, the other factors, the headaches, the flinching, when I got out of the Army at 22 years, my hearing test, I'm failing everything, right? To the point where they're like, yeah, you probably can't serve anymore because you can't hear.
Because you can't hear instruction.
You know?
Like, what?
Yeah. So basic things like that. So anything we can do to preserve that for us, people around. Also, my kids love to shoot if I have a suppressor on.
100%.
Whereas when you didn't, they're like, yeah,
They're terrified.
that's okay. So just the change in culture, I think's been positive for us as an industry and for Americans. And
the whole way across, like to touch on the kids thing, I come from a place where I had to train myself to go try to make these engagements. First time I started hitting even regularly at 1,000 yards, I'm like, man, I am burning to the ground. I took my son out. We shot 1,200 yards. He just lays down, smashes it. Tiny plate. It was ridiculously small. And he's like, oh, cool. What are we going to do next? You're like,
do you know what you just did?
Like this was a milestone in my life, and you're just like, meh, that's fine,
Chip
man.
shot.
Yeah. No, not even like just like no comprehension. Just like, this is super easy and super clean. I don't hurt. I can manage this recoil. Now we're just shooting. Yeah, we're just shooting stuff.
But you gave him a better tool for the job, right?
100%, right? All the
You gave him a
details
set
are
of
there.
snap-on wrenches instead of a crescent wrench.
Yeah, a hammer.
You can get it done with a hammer too, right?
It's a hammer and a torch. We're getting it. Yeah.
Tools help, right? Having the right tool for the job goes a long ways.
Well, 100%. It's application.
Yeah.
What are you trying to get done? Get the tool for the job.
Yep.
Yeah.
The tools are just, in the last 20 years, the ramp up is
Everything.
insane. Look what we're running with now that was unheard of 20 years ago.
Everything has made just leaps and bounds. The optics, the rifle systems, the weighting, the flats on them, like the mounts to like all of those interfaces.
Yeah, tripods and ammo technology, bullet technology,
Yeah.
powder knowledge.
Everything about it is getting crazy. And like instead of just shooting out of the window of a pickup, hard on hard contact with no flat bottom, tiny rear weighted rifle that's just going to blow your arm off. Where did that hit? That goes away.
Yeah.
Like that stuff goes away to where now you're getting application on target at a high rate successfully. You see it at the top level with the match, the PRS or the finale that we just ran. And you watch these guys, and it's mechanical on application. Whereas 20 years ago, 20 years ago, it was a crapshoot. Like, you're hoping, right?
There's a lot of things that could fail along the way.
A lot, right?
Yeah.
The industry itself has learned so much. It's cool. It's really cool to watch it come together and move forward and be able to hit targets at whatever distance you're looking at. You get into the ELR stuff, like, man, those guys are crazy.
Yeah.
Like the distance on semi-accurate stuff. Some of it, 35 rounds to get 2 impacts. Maybe we're not talking about accuracy just yet.
Right.
But
just showing proof of concept.
Yeah.
I can hit it, right?
It did make contact.
And even just the reticle changes we've seen.
Yes.
I did a lot of time in the armor field of the U.S. Army and getting into tanks and Bradleys and seeing Christmas tree reticles from the 40s.
Yeah.
Like somehow didn't make it over into my rifle. Like we've had this the whole time.
Yeah. Like
but we don't tell them, Yeah.
We knew?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It turns out we knew.
Yeah. They had winds, the M1 Abrams has a wind sensor on the back of it. Always has.
Yeah. Weird.
Stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's
weird
like,
that you need that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now the knowledge is all shared and become smaller, lighter,
more applicable to
more
all
applicable
the, yeah,
operator level stuff. This guy can figure out a ballistic solution, put rounds on target
quickly and effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool. It's a cool thing to see them all start to cross over with the push from the internet, really.
Yep, absolutely.
It is super cool. But
Okay, so just you said you shoot suppressed
yes.
now, like all the time. It's not even a question.
Not all the time. I did mess up and go shoot inside of a building with a gas gun.
So you learn your lesson.
Yeah,
like you're done.
Hopefully, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what do you see in suppressors? Like when you look at the gambit, like what are you after when you're looking at them? Like
the really, and this one seems staged, but the variability, the adjustability of you guys' can allows tuning, which is big. The ability to tune what you're doing, to play with the details, is what drove me to actually running this can. Before I ran a Silencer Co Omega, and it worked.
great can, right?
Good can.
I think
on it was
they've
good.
sold more of those cans than any other can in history. I think I've heard that.
Yeah, they're a good can.
Yeah.
Like, they function. They had some issues with cleaning. I ruined a couple stacks with carbon fouling.
Just trying to get it out of there.
Trying to get it out of there.
Yeah.
Because you get way too much carbon built up in them, and then trying to tear them apart. Now I've just destroyed it.
Got it.
The ability to shorten that up to change, really, that if I could find the perfect balance for me on recoil control versus concussion, that's where I'm at.
That's what your sweet spot is. And that variable is going to be based off your barrel length, caliber.
Yeah, there's so many different things.
So that's how much sound you're
Yes.
going to have to deal with, right?
But the other side,
longer barrel, shorter can. Shorter barrel, longer can, right?
How much is your weapon weigh?
And then weight.
Yeah, right. Well, like how much recoil control are you gaining already from something else? Because there's a balance between weight and actual recoil control for what's usable for a human, for at least me, because I'm not working out all the time. I'm not packing a 45-pound rifle and being maneuverable. So right now you're seeing
it's
a lot
not
of
your
weapons.
everyday, right?
Yeah. But you're seeing a lot of the weapon systems. They went to like a 26-pound rifle there for a minute, but we weren't finding any advantage.
It was just extra heavy.
It was just extra heavy.
Because you want weight where when you manipulate the trigger and everything, it doesn't move,
Clean.
right?
Well, it moves, but you want it controlled.
Well, the recoil is going to come straight back.
Super
But
controlled.
when you touch the trigger,
Yep.
put your hand on the gun, it doesn't move.
Right. You want that press to be clean. You want it all to come clean back to you.
Yep.
And if you don't have that, if your weight's in the wrong spot, actually matters more than...
If it's all up here and you push back
Yeah,
here and it just pivots easily,
goes
you're like,
wrong.
okay, that wasn't
Or
what
if
I
it's
needed.
tail heavy, now we're going up
Yep.
because the whole thing's dropping.
So balance is key too.
Balance is key because the rifle will move before the bullet leaves because the explosions happen. You've got the push. So energy's already coming back in the rifle system before that bullet leaves the barrel.
Yep.
You're still in control. You have to maintain clear and concise each time. And so
That follow through is paramount.
it is everything. You see the 22 guys start to suffer in centerfire recoil control
because they're used to they don't have that push,
because
right?
the difference of energy input and energy output. You
They're
see
good
'em-
shooters, but they don't know how to manage that, or
Right.
they may have troubles managing
No,
that.
some of them do. Some
Yeah.
of them are really good.
Yeah.
It's not universal, right?
Yeah.
But you see a lot of guys who are excelling at a 22, similar style stuff. They get back into centerfire and magically can't hit anything again, but you see them out of position and you see them not managing that thing. So if I can get the balance for me to get concussion and recoil control, that's why I like this can, is because of that thing, is I can change the baffle stack. I can change the brakes out. We're machining goofy things just to see
What's going to happen? Yeah.
Right, yeah. So like to go touch back on that thing, we used your 22 can on a 25 cal bullet because the clearance was allegedly there, but too many tolerance stacking issues. I was getting baffle strikes, but they were so tiny we didn't see them until I got to a match, and because I liked that.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, that break.
So you had it tight as possible
as tight as we could possibly get
to get as much recoil reduction
to see,
Yep.
and it worked the best for recoil reduction because obviously now you were getting too much contact. And so I got to a match setting down to 0, and I was getting mill size groups. Mill size groups are wild. That's like a 3.6, 4-inch group.
Yeah. Yeah.
At 100 yards.
You're
Out of
like,
these
okay,
rifles,
something's wrong
bad.
here. Yeah.
Something's wrong. Like this isn't operator error. This is broken. Something's broken. So we started tearing it apart. That was the other cool part, is I could then just strip it back. I didn't have to go switch to a brake. I could just take the back. Once we figured out, because I started just taking everything apart, went to a bare muzzle. I'm like, okay, groups are back. Something with the can.
Something in can.
Something with the can, right? So we got started going through it. So then I just took that brake off and looked. And after like 150 rounds, I finally had a strike, an actual visible strike. But it was close enough that it was affecting the accuracy of that group. Because you'd get a couple that would work, and then... So something somewhere in that system was just too many tolerance stacking to where we were too close.
Really too close on that one.
Yeah, something was affecting it. There's a lot of variabilities that it could have been. But yeah. As soon as then we switched back to this brake that we'd already been kind of playing with.
The 30 caliber one, you had plenty of room and no issues.
Yeah, but the side port was better than the 30 cal as far as recoil reduction when we were looking at that thing. It wasn't huge, but and this one still needs a lot of work, and more like you say, if you're making more brakes, I'm sure we're going to test those too.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing, constant development, getting good feedback from the field so we can put things out,
make it a viable product.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, there's always changes and things, and the calibers we're shooting this year we weren't shooting 3 years ago.
Yeah,
and 6 years ago, and
so it's interesting on that, like caliber wise, you saw. Like 5 years ago, there was a big push for 25, or not for 25, but 6.547s. It's a Lipu around. Everybody was digging them. They were shooting great. Everybody migrated into the 6 mils to try to get rid of recoil, try to minimize it. And then you even saw some push, and you're still seeing some push into the 22s. Seeing like a 22 GT and these other 22 BR, and we played with it. We all did. We're still, I shot a 22 BR for a while. Now we lost all visible impact. Like, maybe we got to get a little more. Now we're seeing a 6.5 push come back. You're seeing the heavier bullets come back.
So you can see bullet trace and impact.
So
it's so little you couldn't see it.
You couldn't see anything. But the other thing that I think there's, I don't know, I need more data on it, need to see what it looks like, but there seems to be less vertical component to the heavier bullets. 6 mils, I don't know, you really need more data to understand it, but it seems like they're having environmental vertical components, which is a nightmare on some of these ranges, like the one we just shot, because of just the slightest updraft. I mean, I call it an updraft, but you hit a environmental profile of a hill or a cliff.
Yeah, and that heat and change in temperature of the day is lifting.
And the winds...
Like the Sierra winds, they say, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's pushing
off the ocean, coming in and off.
But it's on micro scales at the range.
And it's lifting those bullets because they're so light.
Because they something about them. I don't know. That's what I need more data.
It's new, right? Still too new.
There's something wrong. Something's wrong because you're seeing... And we didn't notice it. I didn't until we got to tiny target day. So the targets have gradually gotten tighter and tighter because that's how they're trying to test people. And if you get into conditions where environmentals won't test them more,
like you got to make the target smaller.
You got to make the target smaller. So like we're super lucky out here
because we do get environmentals.
We get nasty
winds, all the stuff.
And these canyons are rough, man. They are not like you need to pay attention to what you're doing. So that thing coming together with tiny targets, so we're like, let's put the tiny target. Why are we getting vertical? Why is our zero not holding? Is this an optical issue? Is this a environmental issue? Like, what are we?
But it's consistent vertical on those canyon walls.
On these specific targets, when you see that updraft on, like Brian ran the one in Jerome, there's a range over there, and it has the grossest lift of any target I've ever shot. At 800 yards, you were generally 0.7 of a mil of lift. That's wild.
A big deal, yeah.
That's wild. 1,000 yards, you're at a full mil, if not like a mil 5.
You're missing every
just
time.
Just over it. And you can't, you're like...
And then now you got no trace. You can't see no impact,
it's wild, right?
Can't adjust.
Right. And so you're seeing them like, what is this? Trying to understand why. And that one's the most... We don't use that range specifically in competition because of how localized of a advantage it would be to the guys who have tracked that.
Got it. They know that.
That's not okay, right? You can't run a national
match.
Not
trying to game them.
No. No, we want it to be even across the board, testing the individuals. Yep. You showed up there and you didn't know it, you'd never anticipate that. And then you're questioning your dope, and once you start to question your data...
Everything's out the window.
It's no good, because each shot, then you've got an extra pause of, was that high?
Yeah.
Was it low? But yeah, so you're seeing that trend of transferring back to the 6.5s, so the heavier bullets. You're seeing the 153s and the 156s make pretty good. You're seeing the 25 cal bullets, which are really, that's the last probably 5 or 6 years have been making a push because they've been making a lot better of a 25 cal bullet. So Hornady makes them, Sierra makes them, Berger makes them.
That's the old school like Swedish gun, right? Yep. Swedish Mauser thing.
Way bigger bullets.
They designed that thing. Yes. They put a lot of heart into that thing back in the day, right?
100%.
And it's still holding true. There's like magic in there, right?
Yeah. You're like, oh, turns out there is something here.
Yeah.
Same as you see the 6.8 pushes, the 270 guys.
Yeah.
Like that Yeah, you're like,
it works.
What is
right?
this bullet? Where are we? What is this? So you're seeing those things come around.
Full circle. But it brings their recoil back up a little bit.
Yep.
And that's where we come in, you know,
Make the
thinking
product fit.
about making products that can mitigate that for them as well. And so we'll be releasing some more in-cap type comps.
That's cool.
Comp side discharge.
Yeah.
Muzzle devices in 2025.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we'll have them coming out.
Oh, that's super cool.
Just keep getting enough feedback from the field. You know,
Data.
it's a need.
Yes.
You know, timing's a thing. So we have a couple different ways we've been thinking about timing them.
That's cool.
But yeah, it's nothing new. You know, there's cans out there with brakes on the end.
Yeah.
I think Barrett's probably done it best over the years.
They've been around for a minute
and
doing it.
you know, it's definite necessity. You're shooting a 50, it's going to have a brake on the end.
Energy in.
So not a new thing. Just need to put it in our lineup and have it for people like the PRS group, the Hunter group.
Yeah.
They love it, right?
It's
a thing.
It's the thing. Balance it out. If you can get back to where you can actually have your hearing and shoot stuff,
It's a win.
the win.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate
It's awesome.
you. Yep. You guys take care, and thanks for spending some time with us today.